just brought this motorcycle to a controlled stop using my rear brake only. I don't touch this front brake at all at slow speeds. I want to talk to you about why I don't and why I advise you don't. Good, keep it loaded, keep it loaded, keep it loaded, keep it loaded. Very nice, I'm looking at the camera. Very nice, good, good, good. Preloaders, V.I.Preloaders, welcome back to the channel, guys. Always a pleasure to have you guys here with me, and you know this by now, or at least you should. For those of you that are here for the first time, I want to welcome you to this wonderful channel as well, and I hope that you subscribe to this channel. And for those of you that have been here for a while and you're not subscribed, please do so, right? That definitely helps me out, it helps out my channel. And if you're not sure, just double check, make sure you're subscribed. YouTube does funny things sometimes, so you may have subscribed, and YouTube may have unsubscribed you. I don't know why they would have done that. I don't know why they do that, but the word on the street is that happened. So do me a favor and just check that out, guys. Anyway, guys, my name's Robert. I'm a retired NYPD Highway Patrol motorcycle lieutenant. The name of this channel is Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle. Now, if you're familiar with my channel already, what I'm going to be talking about today, you probably already heard. And I say probably because what I'm going to be talking to you about today, I've said multiple times in my videos. However, sometimes this information is buried in a practice session video. And not everybody watches my practice session videos from start to finish. And I get it. They're very long videos. But like I always tell people, this is, yes, there's an entertainment portion of my channel, but primarily we're here to learn, right? This is an investment in you. And I know everybody wants a quick fix way of doing everything. We want things quick. So we don't want to have to invest a lot of time. But I'm here to tell you, invest that time to learn how to actually ride one of these motorcycles, because it can save your life. It's so important that if you really think about it, doesn't make sense not to invest that time. Anyway, I want to talk to you about why I advise people, because remember, I don't tell anybody what to do on this channel. I'm just sharing with you what I've been taught, my experiences with that, and how I think it would benefit you. And I'm referring to not touching this front brake at slow speeds. And when I say at slow speeds, I'm talking about at speeds between 1 and 10 miles per hour. Now right there, of course, I'm on my front brake because it's emergency brake and I'm downshifting at the same time. And as soon as I stop, I'm putting a foot down. I don't even think I'm touching my rear brake at that point. You could, some people use two brakes. My brakes are linked. So if I really need to stop this motorcycle, I'm on my front brake, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Remember, we're not grabbing, we're squeezing. So clearly I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about slow speed riding. Okay, let me get off this bike because let's go over a couple of things. All right, so before I get into that, guys, I have to talk about some of the other things that we cover on this channel because it makes understanding why we don't touch this front brake at slow speeds that much more easy to understand, as far as I'm concerned, to the point where it's kind of like indisputable, right? Okay, and let's also keep in mind, guys, that whenever I speak of anything, remember, it's a million ways to do everything, right? And I want you to do what works best for you. I'm talking about an experienced rider at slow speeds. Notice I don't just say an experienced rider, because there's people that have been riding for decades and they still don't understand this concept, which means they're really still not the boss of their motorcycle. When you can master your motorcycle at slow speeds confidently with your feet up, that's when you're the boss of the motorcycle. And that's what the goal is here. So, because there's a million ways to do everything, just because you can do something doesn't mean it's the practical way of doing it, right? Doesn't mean it's the best way of doing it. So with that being said, and all of this is gonna kind of tie back to my practice session videos, and that's why I advise you guys to watch them. So I'm gonna talk to you about a few exercises. The first exercise is trust and believe. All right, that's exercise number 3 in my practice sessions. If you're unfamiliar with it, go to my practice sessions and check out exercise number 3. And the purpose of that exercise is to get you to really trust and believe that as long as you have sufficient power going to the rear wheel, you're gonna be fine. I'm not gonna go over that exercise, all right? I'll probably do a separate video on that, but like I said, all you have to do is go to exercise number 3 in any of my practice session videos, and you'll see it. Preload, foot up. Anyway, and most people really don't trust and believe that as long as there's power going to the rear wheel, they're gonna be okay, right? Okay, so if you really trust and believe that as long as you have sufficient power going to the rear wheel of your motorcycle, you're gonna be fine, meaning your motorcycle is not gonna fall. And the purpose of that exercise is when you feel like it's gonna fall, instead of putting your foot down, just open up your clutch a little bit because we're already preloaded, all right? If you're unfamiliar with what preload means, preload is referring to the throttle. We're gonna preload the throttle, and we do that, and we keep it loaded. We're listening to the sound of the engine, and the goal is to keep that sound steady. As I often say, if your motorcycle was on an EKG machine, we want a flat line. We don't want to go gluck, 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 because if you hear that, your RPMs are too low. We want to be in the habit of keeping it steady, right? Preload and keep it loaded. And because we're doing that, now we don't have to worry about throttling the motorcycle if we feel uh-oh. And uh-oh means I feel like I'm gonna fall, I wanna put my foot down. But that's why we have to practice. We need to gain muscle memory, because when you feel uh-oh, you're already preloaded, you're already in the friction zone, but even if you're not, you open up your hand just a little bit and that falling you feel will be corrected. Pull the clutch in, motorcycle feels like it's gonna fall, let the clutch out a little, it stands up. And the more you let out the clutch, the more power you're allowing to go to the rear wheel. Okay, do we understand that concept? If we are, then we can move forward. Now, and I'm gonna refer to coming to a smooth stop, right? I'll use that as an example. That's one example I'm gonna talk to you about. If you're bringing the motorcycle to a smooth stop, and let's keep in mind that what I'm talking to you about today, and everything for the most part that I talk to you about, is relevant whether you're riding 1 up or 2 up. The rules don't change. All right, guys, exercise number 1, we all know. As I'm coming to a stop, I'm gonna be on my front brake, and as soon as I get 10 miles per hour or less off the front brake, rear brake only, come to a smooth stop. If I need to stay in the friction zone all the way until the stop, 30% friction zone, 70% rear brake. Come to a stop, left foot down, but of course you can put down both feet, especially if you have a passenger on the back. All right, let's do it. Front brake, front brake, front brake. Now I'm just rear brake, back into the friction zone to make it smooth. Stop, nice and easy. Now, like I said, if you want to stop and put both your feet down, that's fine. Okay, so if I'm bringing my motorcycle, I want to bring it to a smooth stop, right? Because if I stop smoothly, then my foot can come down nice and gently, and that's what we want. We don't want to stop and we're doing like this. If I want to do that, and I say, hey, I'm going to use the front brake to stop, and then I'm going to put both my feet down. Here's the problem with that. Number one, most likely it's not going to be a smooth stop, because the front brake is a lot of stopping power. So that's why in exercise number 1 in my practice sessions, which is a stop and a start from a distance, I have the riders ride up to me, go up to second gear, and then have them downshift to first gear, start braking with the front brake initially, and then right before they stop, get off the front brake, rear brake only. The rear brake is going to finish out that stopping process, which is going to allow it to be smooth. But there's more to that. I'm going to get to that. Right now we're talking about the front brake. If you rely on just using the front brake to come to a stop, that means that you're not, and you're putting 2 feet down, that means you're not using the rear brake at all. So that means that for a brief moment while you're stopping, You are the coin rolling across the table. It's another analogy that I've used to describe bringing your motorcycle to a smooth stop. And what I'm referring to is if you roll a coin across the table, as long as that coin has momentum, it will roll and it will roll. But eventually it's going to lose momentum, then it's going to waver, and then it's going to fall without any power. That's your motorcycle without power to the rear wheel. And if you're bringing your motorcycle to a stop just with the front brake, eventually your motorcycle is going to get to a speed where it doesn't feel steady. And when you feel that, we already talked about how you correct that, which is going back into the friction zone. But if you're using the front brake, you can't go back into the friction zone and use the front brake at the same time, comfortably, right? Again, we're not talking about what's possible, we're talking about what's practical. So, with that being said, as soon as you feel that falling feeling, you're gonna grab the front brake more and wanna put your foot down, because how else are you gonna deal with falling if it's not with the friction zone? You're gonna put your foot down. So, front brake. As soon as I feel unsteady, I have to put my foot down, because what else am I gonna do, right? And what generally happens is, because you feel falling and that's why you're putting your foot down, the motorcycle's falling faster than you would like it to, especially if you have a passenger on the back, you're gonna grab the front brake, and also keep in mind that because you're already starting to lose your balance, what happens to our handlebars when we start to lose balance? They start to go like this, right? Okay, and that's fine when you're doing it correctly. But when you're not, if your handlebars turn and now you grab the front brake, what do you think's gonna happen? I always tell everyone, don't stop with the handlebars turned, especially not with the front brake. So if you do that, grab the front brake, handlebars are turned, 9 times out of 10, the motorcycle is gonna fall, all right? Especially if it's a heavier motorcycle. So let's compare that to if you're stopping with the rear brake. Because remember, we're not just solely using the rear brake. If we were, we'd be in the same situation, which is the coin rolling across the table. But what we're gonna do is go back to what we just talked about. Whenever you feel, uh-oh, what do? You go back into the friction zone. So when you're slowing down, coming to a stop, you came off of the front brake, now you're on the rear brake only. You're in the friction zone. Here's the difference. Front brake, you weren't in the friction zone. You're coasting. You got the clutch pulled in and you're coasting. We're using the rear brake, we're in the friction zone, and when we get to the speed, if we're not ready to stop yet, because sometimes you can pull the clutch in and come to a smooth stop and put your foot down nice and easy, because in that moment, the balance all worked out. But other times, and quite frankly, the majority of the times, that's not gonna happen. So when you feel, uh-oh, I know I wanna stop up there, but I'm feeling like I'm losing my balance, what are we gonna do? But if I'm using my rear brake, when I feel unsteady, back into the friction zone, straighten out, nice smooth stop. We're gonna open up the clutch just a little bit, because we don't need speed, we just need power. You giving that little bit of power to the rear wheel of the motorcycle is gonna right that motorcycle. Now at the same time, you're applying the rear brake, okay? And I say these numbers, but they don't mean much. 70% rear brake, 30% power. The only point I'm trying to get across to you is the goal is to stop. So clearly we're not going to give more power than brake power, right? And that will allow you to right the motorcycle, brake, and then as soon as you're ready to stop, you got to put your foot down. Now, once you're stopped, if you want to put your other foot down to give stability, especially if you have a passenger on the back, that's fine. We're not going to take that opportunity to put our feet down and put the motorcycle in neutral, right? We're definitely not going to do that. And there's a bunch of reasons why we don't do that. But the point is, the front brake is not the answer at slow speeds. Now imagine if I'm making a tight U-turn, right? If I'm making a tight U-turn and I'm just going to keep going around in circles, but anything I'm going to do where I'm leaning the motorcycle, the only thing keeping the motorcycle up at slow speeds is power to the rear wheel. I don't need to go fast, I can't be going too slow either, right? But if I need to keep it in the confined space, I definitely can't go too fast. So it's commonplace to drag the rear brake while you're in that exercise, while you're in that motion or that movement. Drag the rear brake. So, can you drag the front brake while you're doing that? No, it's not even a thought in your mind to do so. This is all I wanted to get across to you guys. And I know that people that have been riding for decades and don't even know they have a rear brake because they don't use it. Yeah, this is going to seem strange to them, right? And if something feels uncomfortable, I feel like motorcycle riders just say, screw that, I'm going to stay away from that. But guess what they don't stay away from? And they don't stay away from it because they can't if they want to ride their motorcycle. And that's starting and stopping controlled, right? Slow and controlled. If you really want to know how to ride your motorcycle and feel confident riding your motorcycle, you need to be comfortable riding it at slow speeds. This is not guys, this is not a gimmick, it's not a trick. It's the way you're supposed to ride a motorcycle. So the exercises that I give you guys, the warm-up exercise, where we're starting and stopping 15 feet apart. I'm purposely not giving you a lot of space because I want you to feel comfortable. Slowly starting, slowly stopping. You're under control, all right? You're not stopping like this. You're under control. You're stopping like this. We're on two wheels, guys. So every now and then, it is gonna happen where you feel like you're stopping like that. And that's fine, but it should be an every now and then thing. It shouldn't be an all the time thing. Also keep in mind that when you're on a ground that's not even, gravel road, grass, or sometimes even the pavement, then that whole coasting while the clutch is in, that's not gonna work out, right? Because just one thing, remember we're on two wheels. If you're going slow, a little unevenness will push your motorcycle one way. And in that moment going slow, if you don't have power, the sensation of falling is gonna be increased, it's gonna be greater. How do we deal with the sensation of falling? The friction zone, the friction zone, the friction zone, guys, all right? Do me a favor, guys. I want you to practice this. When I was learning how to drive, I'll never forget this. I was taking my driving test, and I remember I got points deducted, and the guy told me it's because when we came to a stop, that his head went like this, right? He was being a stickler. But ever since then, I've always practiced while being in the car how to bring the car to a smooth stop so that if I have people in the car with me, their heads don't go like this. Their heads don't do anything. And that's just a matter of being coordinated and pressure on the rear brake, pressure on the brake. So as the car's coming to a stop, I'm applying pressure, and as soon as it's about to stop, right before it's about to stop, I let off some of that pressure, and that will decrease the dive at the end of it, right? And if it's timed properly, it'll almost be seamless. Like the car will just come to a stop, no dive at all. My challenge to you guys is, I want you to practice the same thing on your motorcycles. That's what I do. I practice stopping this motorcycle so that the front suspension has very little compression. You shouldn't be stopping in the front of your motorcycle. It's diving down like this. Like I said, every now and then that's gonna happen depending on the situation. But just average riding and coming to a stop at a stop sign that you know is there, you know you're stopping, you shouldn't be stopping like this. Because right there, that's just showing that you're not coordinated. Your timing's off a little bit. That's what not being coordinated means. You're applying too much brake, not enough brake. You know, you're putting your foot down way before you're ready to stop. It's just not, you know. But if you practice this, trust me, it'll get easier and easier. And I got news for you. It's gonna make you appreciate and love this machine that much more. All right, guys? All right, guys, I hope this video helped you out. If you're not subscribed, as I stated earlier, please hit that subscribe button, share this video, like, comment. I reply to all the comments, and hit that notification bell, guys, and switch it to all. That way you get a notification every time I put out one of these videos. Guys, that 98% of motorcycle riders that are not proficient in slow speed riding, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to knock that number down, because the safer we are out there, the more we're gonna enjoy riding our motorcycles, and the more of us that are knowledgeable about this, we're gonna share it. It's just a part of us for the most part. Most of us wanna share something when we know that it will benefit others. And that's what I'm doing here. Listen, I know that there's anything that you guys could be doing with your time. The fact that you choose to spend a little bit of it with me, that's always appreciated. Spend more time being thankful for the things that you have and less time complaining about the things that you don't. Guys, I'm never gonna get sick of saying it. Seat time doesn't equal practice time. And if you have time to ride your motorcycle, you have time to practice on it. Until next time. Rear brake, baby.